Looks like we've got most of the people online here that have registered for this webinar. Again, my name is Jason Vasilas, and today we're going to be talking about cross-platform user experience research in the multi-screen world. And to begin the conversation, I'd like to give you a little introduction on myself and the company I work for. So I am Jason Vasilas. I am a senior user experience strategist here at Usability Sciences. I have 10 years of experience in this industry. I'm a lead researcher for the company, and what that means is I conduct lab-based usability studies and user experience research. I've done roughly 175 of these in the past 10 years, and really covered just about every methodology, every industry, every device type out there. I also help to develop new services and methodologies here internally at Usability Sciences. And in my personal life, I'm an avid kite surfer and a DJ. So a little bit about Usability Sciences, in case you aren't familiar with the company. We are a full-service user experience testing consultancy, and we have a full suite of lab-based and online services. And we roughly conduct 150 user experience projects every year for our clients, and have been in business for 25 years, located right here in Dallas, Texas. So what we'll be covering today in this webinar, we've got 5 main topics. First, we're going to just generally talk about user experience research and the impact of multi-screens or multiple devices. We'll then talk a little bit about cross-platform user experience in terms of the basics and how we conduct this methodology. We'll cover a sample cross-platform research study, give you a little insight into what we have done in this domain. We'll then cover some best practices from various studies we've conducted over the years. And then lastly, we'll talk about where we see cross-platform user experience research going in the future. So, to begin, for a very long time, UX 1.0 was really all about having a great desktop experience. So websites and products on computers is really about ensuring they had a great experience on the desktop computer. And then UX 2.0, and this is the past 5 to 7 years, has really been all about ensuring you've got a great experience on the mobile and tablet platforms. And what we'll be talking about today is UX 3.0, and really it's about ensuring a great cross-platform experience. So not only on each type of device or platform, but from going from platform to platform, ensuring that is a great experience as well. One analogy that we are going to delve into a bit later in this presentation is really the concept of the multi-screen ecosystem. And we won't spend too much time on that right now, but essentially that is the concept that the experience isn't using a site on one platform, but the experience is actually using the site across various platforms or devices, if you will. And again, we'll cover that later in this presentation. Alright, so to put us all on the same page, let's rewind the clock to 10 years ago. And user experience testing primarily consisted of performing usability tests on desktop computers. And so oftentimes what that looked like is bringing in users or participants into the lab and having them go through a number of tasks. And these were one-on-one sessions where we, the researchers, would observe what the users were doing, ask a number of questions, then analyze their behavior and their actions, and then produce a deliverable for our clients. And so oftentimes the usability test report will look something like this. Document the various areas of websites or of the software product, taking a look at where the issues existed, where confusion emerged, and then also recommendations on how to make the user experience better. And then over the years, this took place. We had multiple new types of devices or platforms, if you will, come forward. And as we all know, the mobile phone, the smartphones, and tablets have really increased and really changed the entire user experience game altogether. So a couple of statistics that I'd like to share here. By the end of 2013, there will be more mobile devices on Earth than there will be people. And that's just a couple months away, actually only about a month away, 6 weeks away. By 2014, the mobile internet is predicted to take over desktop internet usage. And lastly, 64% of smartphone owners are now using their mobile devices to shop online. So just a few statistics here that really demonstrate the proliferation of these new devices in the marketplace and how they've changed our web browsing experiences. So here at Usability Sciences, we have seen the trend very prominently take place here. We've had our clients come to us with more and more requests to test on the mobile and tablet platforms. But then most recently, in the past several years, we've had a lot more requests to test on multiple platforms in the same study. So basically, clients wanting to ensure that their website or websites really provide a great experience on these different platforms here: desktop, mobile, and tablet. And it's not just what we've noticed here at Usability Sciences, but we've seen the same thing take place with other factors, other research out there. And the most prominent is this study produced by Google in August of 2012. The name of the study was The New Multi-Screen World. And just a few highlights from that study. If you'd like to find this, you can search for The New Multi-Screen World out there on the web, and it has been published. You should be able to track it down pretty easily. So a couple interesting highlights that came from this very large-scale study that Google conducted was that our time online is spread across 4 primary media devices. So from day-to-day activities or behaviors, users are really using a multitude of different devices. Context drives device choice. And we are going to delve into this a bit later. But essentially, based on where a user is in their given day, will dictate the type of device that they're going to be using to interact with websites or various software, apps, etc. And lastly, what we found very interesting at Usability Sciences is that consumers are now taking a multi-device path to purchase. So what this means is essentially users may begin their interaction with the website on one device, but they won't complete the actual purchase or their interaction until they've moved to another device. So as you can see here, 65% of users are starting their experiences on a smartphone, but then will continue on to either a desktop or, much fewer, to a tablet and complete that experience or that purchase in this case. And similarly, users may start their experience on a desktop and then move to a smartphone or a tablet. So with this in mind, it's become even more important to really take a look at the comprehensive experience across devices and really making sure that the experience holds up. So what we're seeking to answer in this presentation today, if you are a site or a product owner, we're interested to answer the question, what happens to the user experience of our sites in this multi-screen environment? And if you're a researcher like myself, we are looking to really understand how we can design a study that really effectively tests the actual sites in this environment and obtains feedback. So to really take a look and delve into this topic, again, I'm going to paint the picture here that for a long time, UX 1.0 was about having a great user experience on a desktop. And then UX 2.0 was really all about ensuring that experience was great on a mobile and tablet, bringing us to where we are today at the beginning of UX 3.0, and that is ensuring that you've got a great experience across these platforms. So to take a look at the significance of that trend, we also need to take a look at some trends from other areas. So let us take a trip down memory lane together, and if you'll step into my time machine here, we'll take a look starting with the evolution of the cell phone. So this is Martin Cooper, and he is known as the inventor of the first mobile phone, believe it or not, in 1973. And this invention really stunned the world. It really allowed you to make a phone call from just about anywhere that you were. And it wasn't until the 80s where these were released to the public, but again, at the time it was a dramatic breakthrough in technology. It was only about 5 pounds, 11 inches long, and really, again, stunned the world with what it could do. Then in the 90s, fast forward here, Nokia produced the first GSM phone, which had a very unique feature, which was text messaging. As we all know, texting is now just as commonplace, just about anything else that you can do with your cell phone. Fast forward yet again to 2003, BlackBerry emerged with a full QWERTY keyboard, a number of apps, and really changed the way we communicate with these devices. And at the time, this was about as good as it got. Then, of course, as we know, 2007, here's Steve Jobs introducing the first iPhone to the world, which changed phones altogether. The smartphone, the emergence of the smartphone. So what this example demonstrates is that we see an exponential increase in convenience afforded to users. So taking a look at the first phone, if you look at the value proposition, it was really all about connecting with others from wherever you are. And with the iPhone and smartphones in general, the exponential growth of convenience there, allowing you to text message, email, use a multitude of different devices, apps, or other means of communicating, again, just exponentially through the roof. Let's take a look at another example. This is the first commercially released VHS VCR by JVC in 1976. And at the time, this was a dramatic breakthrough in technology. It offered something very unique known as television program time shifting. So you actually had control over what was on TV. You could record and play back at your own convenience. Fast forward to 1999, TiVo stuns the world with its digital-based recording solution. Not only could you record your own favorite shows on TV, but you could also pause live TV. And at the time, this was as good as it got. I mean, not only could you record, but you could pause live TV. Fast forward to where we are today. This is Dish's solution here, 2013, allowing you to record up to 6 different broadcasts at the same time and play them back on a multitude of different devices. So again, looking at this trend, we see the exponential growth in convenience afforded to users. We have a device that allows you to record and play back video at home. And here we are today with a device that does so much more. One more example, one more trend that we'll take a look at. Blockbuster in 1985 opens its first store right here in Dallas, Texas. And Blockbuster really got it right in that they understood the demographics of the area in which they were opening the stores. So based on the type of people that lived in the area, they filled their stores with titles that would really appeal to them. And for a long time, this was as good as it got. If you grew up in the 80s, you knew it was about going to Blockbuster every weekend to get a movie to watch at home. Then in 1998, Netflix changes the game altogether and allowing for much more convenience. You don't even need to go to the store. You can get these through mail order. Redbox changes the game yet again in 2004, now offering very low-cost rentals on just about every street corner where you find a convenience store. Apple TV 2006, convenience to users, again, exponentially through the roof, allowing you to stream from a multitude of different services from the comfort of your own home, really giving you that much more in terms of options and availability. Then in 2010, Netflix releases an iPhone app that allows you to stream content directly to the palm of your hand. So looking at this trend, we have Blockbuster offering you a service which is essentially lets you watch movies at home, and then convenience going through the roof, now allowing you to watch movies anywhere you are, on demand, at the palm of your hand. So what we're seeing in all these trends, again, convenience exponentially increasing, could really be summarized by Joe Consumer, if you will, stating, offer me what I want, when I want, and where I want. And there have been others that have talked about this on-demand era that we are now living into. And one such is the McKinsey and Company, folks over at McKinsey, that stated that what's fueling the on-demand marketing is the continued symbiotic evolution of technology and consumer expectations. So mobile devices have now added a wherever dimension to the digital environment. But something else that's very interesting to take note of in these three examples, these trends that we've seen in other areas, it's not just user convenience, but they also embody something known as the innovator's paradox. And what the innovator's paradox states is that it's the best time to invest in growth when you least need to invest in growth. So if you take a look at what innovation looks like when a product is introduced, starting from the formulation phase into exploration and the maturation, the paradox here is that it's always the best time, really, to invest in growth. So if you're waiting until your product has become mature, then it's likely others have emerged in the marketplace with something that is that much better, or perhaps offering that much more convenience. So now applying it back to our Blockbuster example. For a long time, the most convenient experience out there was going to Blockbuster and picking out a title. Then an innovation took place, and convenience had a new face, and that was Netflix, followed by Redbox and Apple TV. Another innovation took place, and now here we are with the ability to stream videos on demand to our phone. And at some point, there will be another innovation that takes place, and really begging the question, what could possibly be better than streaming content to your phone? And I don't have the answer to that, and I imagine many people in this webinar don't have the answer to that either. But certainly, as history tells us, there will be some innovation, and something will be even more convenient down the road. So now applying it back to the user experience world. Again, UX 1.0 was all about a great experience on the desktop. 2.0 about mobile devices and tablets. And here we are, UX 3.0. It's about ensuring the great experience across devices. So this really embodies something that we call multi-screen convenience. And let's take a moment to define what that means. So multi-screen convenience is really a factor of two things. Having a seamless experience across devices. So really never skipping a beat. Regardless of what type of device you're on, the website is holding up from device to device. And number two, the experience itself is really adapting to the user's context. So regardless of where you are, you've got a website or a product that is serving your needs, regardless of the type of environment you're in or the type of device that you're on. And this really is the crux of what we are talking about today. If you aren't thinking about how your website or your product can offer multi-screen convenience to your users, then someone else will deliver something even better, even more convenient, and you'll find yourself much like that of a Blockbuster becoming obsolete as innovations take place over the years. So let's just take a brief look at some multi-screen, some experiences that offer multi-screen convenience. This is Apple TV, and there's a feature on Apple TV that is called AirPlay, and it allows any iOS device to seamlessly share content from screen to screen. So in these examples here, we've got a tablet where you might view pictures, and with your tablet and your iOS device, if you have Apple TV, you can then share your images to your TV. Same thing with perhaps YouTube from an iPhone. So playing YouTube clips on your iPhone, you can now send them over to your TV for viewing on a much larger screen. And lastly, taking a look at a video game where one part of the game is on the iPad itself, and the other part of the game is on the TV. So a very seamless experience there. Here's another example, TV Anywhere. And this is the trend that's been growing in the past several years with just about every major cable manufacturer, really offering you the ability to view your cable channels on any device in a very seamless fashion. And one more example, probably the coolest one of the bunch here. This is a very unique pairing of Kindle and Audible. And if you purchase a book, an ebook, on your Kindle, you now have the option to also purchase the professional narration. And what this really affords the users to do is seamlessly go between the Kindle and a mobile device and never lose your place in the book. So what this looks like is in your day-to-day activities, whether you are getting up, commuting to work, or perhaps after work in a very leisurely way, you're able to take a look, you read a book, and stay on the same page, whether it's on audio format or reading it itself, and you never interrupt that experience itself. So as you can see here, day-to-day context, users using multiple devices. And really it begs the question, how do you design a site that's going to address the needs of users on these different devices in these different situations? How do you test a device and test a website across these different experiences? And the answer to that is that you take a cross-platform approach. And we're going to talk about how you get into that testing and what that methodology looks like in just a moment. So again, looking at the example from Kindle and Audible, here we see a user that regardless of where she is in her day, she can read her book or listen to her book across devices and never lose her place. And there are others that have been discussing this topic, documenting it with white papers and other research. One such group, the Precious Design Studios, these guys are based out of Germany, and they produced a series of patterns for multi-screen strategies. And it's a little bit outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. But essentially, through these different patterns, there's a variety of different methods, including things that are more complementary in nature or synchronous, etc. Something interesting if you got a little time to take a look at what they've documented there. And now the concept of the multi-screen ecosystem. So here really, what we mean by the multi-screen ecosystem is that the product itself is not a website on a given platform, but the product is the experience of using that website across devices while also considering where you might be and what your context is. So this is the multi-screen ecosystem. So the old way of looking at a product would be that the product is the website and site on a desktop perhaps. But now this new way of looking at what a product is again, it's that site in the multi-screen ecosystem. And the reason we stress this point is because here at Usability Sciences, we have a lot of our clients come to us and share about their internal structure in which there are different individuals in charge of the desktop website versus the mobile website or app versus the tablet app or website. And each of these groups are held to their own set of evaluation or metrics, often of times which conversion is on that list. And so what this produces is a very competitive environment where the groups are almost pitted against one another. So a more modern way of looking at this organization structure would be in a more collaborative format in which the site owners across all different device types are really working in a collaborative fashion. So now let's talk a little bit about the methodology itself, so how you perform user experience testing in this cross-platform environment. So to start, let's just paint the picture with what a standard usability test might look like. So oftentimes these are 60 to 90-minute sessions where we recruit participants to come into the lab and have them spend their time looking at a website on one particular type of device. But in a cross-platform session, we actually bring participants in to take a look at the site across devices. So in a 90-minute to 120-minute session, we break it up to ensure that they've got time to evaluate the site across these different devices. And in doing a study like this, in this format, you might have one of two goals. You can take the more evaluative approach, which is really taking an existing site and ensuring that we identify issues and perhaps fixes to those different issues from platform to platform. Or you can do this earlier in the product's life cycle to really help generate ideas for new features or new functions, really understanding why users might be using each device and what they're looking for those devices or your website to do on those devices. So at Usability Sciences, we recommend that at least 20% of your research budget is in the generative domain. So really spending time, again, thinking back to that innovator's paradox, spending time to think about where things are going and what could be even more convenient for your users. So oftentimes the objectives that we put together for our clients in doing this type of cross-platform study is threefold. First, we want to take a look at user behavior and really understand what devices are getting used and really understand the impact of context, what their expectations are for your site on these devices. We also take a look at the features, and we really want to understand what's valuable, what might be missing from device to device. And lastly, we take a look at the overall user experience, really ensuring that your brand or your site holds up regardless of what type of device or what type of environment the user is in. So what we have found in doing studies in this format, it really is very much a hybrid methodology. We have a part of that session that is really more of a user interview, or perhaps even a field study, really just based on understanding user behavior and getting a lot of really good attitudinal background data. Part of this is also a usability test, because certainly in this setting we're going to uncover issues with the site or the product on these different devices. And part of this methodology is also a comparative test, because naturally bringing users in and having them look at the site across the devices, they're going to start naturally making comparisons and telling you what they like about one device on one site on one device versus what that experience is like on another device. And lastly, it's also partially an expert review, because the researchers, having done a lot more background gathering, have an understanding, a view of the products that your everyday user may not. So the cross-platform study, it really is a hybrid methodology. This is what our setup looks like here at Usability Sciences. So we've got a desktop computer, and with our software loaded on the computer, we're able to capture everything that takes place as the user interacts with that website. And we also have a setup here that allows us to seamlessly switch over to a camera feed and then capture what that experience and what the user is interacting with on either the mobile or the tablet platform. So this is one of the basic things you'll need if you are doing any kind of cross-platform research yourself. Alright, so now let's take a look at an example of a study that we've done here at Usability Sciences and get a little background there. So recently we did a study, and to protect the confidentiality of our client, we've taken all the names out of here and kept this very general. But we recently did a study on a movie website. This would be a site that allows you to do things like finding showtimes and purchasing tickets. And our client had some very specific objectives. We really wanted to understand the user behavior around the entire movie-going experience. So that's everything from considering what movie users might want to go see, to actually looking for those showtimes and then completing the purchase and buying the tickets before going to the theater. The client also really wanted to understand how device or purpose of device would be impacted based on what the user is doing, where they might be in their day-to-day activities, and how that would drive the device usage. We also wanted to take a look at features and understand which features were most viable on the mobile versus the tablet versus the desktop version of that site. And then lastly, we really wanted to ensure, again, that the overall user experience across these different platforms really held up. So we recruited 12 users, and we did 90-minute sessions, and we broke each session into 3 parts. We spent a little time interviewing the users to really understand their behavior and their background and how they approach the whole movie-going experience. We then had them demonstrate some of these activities on any platform they wished. So we brought them in, we put them in front of all 3 platforms, the mobile, the tablet, and the desktop, and we turned it over to them. And they could go to any site or use any app that they typically use and just really paint the picture of where they might be in their day and what they might be doing and how they'd be using the sites on these different devices. And then finally, in a very structured format, we had users go through a number of tasks that took them through a number of different areas in this particular site, And we did this on at least 2 platforms because we wanted to get some very tactile feedback. So I now have a video clip for us to watch together. And this isn't, again, it's not from the actual testing that took place. This isn't not revealing any confidentiality here. But it resembles what we uncovered and how a cross-platform study, the type of results that you'll get. So let's take a watch.
So now that you've had an opportunity to take a look at this site across the different devices, again, what were your overall impressions?
Well, I'll kind of start with go through each device, and I'll start with the desktop since that's what we started with. I'll do a search for Gravity. What I liked about desktop is I felt like, you do a search for a movie, it returns me movies, I click on it, and immediately I'm able to, as it fills in, I'm able to see the times and locations that movie is playing at. And for the most part, that's almost like the most important information. And then I know that, I can scroll down, I can see other things. But I like that the time and the location of where those movies were going to be was just right there. So I thought that was one of the best parts about the desktop.
Okay.
However, and I'll switch over to phone now. On the phone, what I noticed, if I click that same movie, Gravity, the movie page shows me cast and director, trailer, and clips. Showtimes aren't right there as soon as I click on it. And generally with the phone, I'm going to want to see showtimes more quickly probably because I'm probably trying to do something quickly. I'm not at home. I'm maybe at the mall trying to determine what movie's playing next. And so I have to actually click on showtimes, which also appears to already be selected, but it's not. So then when I click on showtimes, then I can access all those showtimes. So I prefer the desktop in that manner that it showed showtimes first, and then I could access other things. I didn't like on the phone, where I felt it was even more important to show showtimes first, that I actually had to make an extra click and have an extra page load. And you know what, a lot of times in the mall, it takes a long time for those pages to load, so that's kind of frustrating for me.
Okay. And again, what were your overall thoughts and impressions on the tablet version?
I thought the tablet was pretty good as well. One of the things I really liked about the tablet is that it seemed to provide a little bit more information. Like when I click on Captain Phillips, I get this full article. When I use a tablet a lot of times, it might be in the evening while I'm watching TV, and it's kind of like when I'm bored of TV, I go and look at the tablet, and vice versa. I kind of switch back and forth all night. So these kind of things, these kind of features like articles and they also had the trailers here. Those are things that I like to have like readily available and easily be able to access on the tablet.
So that, again, a clip from a simulation of a lab study, really showing you the type of things that you uncover in doing a test in this format. So a couple highlights that came out of this study. We really got insight into the client's expectation of product use versus the participants' actual product use. So there are a number of things that the client was hoping users were doing with their site on these different devices that they may or may not have been doing. We also uncovered some preferences in terms of which platform that users wanted to use. And oftentimes this was the mobile app. And in looking at that, we also identified between iPhone and Android which one provided a better experience. There were also, again, as I mentioned just a moment ago, some specific features or content the client was really hoping users would uncover. And in going through these sessions, there were some areas that were visible and others that were not. And really what this provided to the client was an opportunity to come up with some new strategies to really gain additional market share and position themselves as a site that offers additional things beyond perhaps something like looking up showtimes and just purchasing tickets. So now let's just spend a few moments and we're going to cover some best practices that we have seen from study to study. And we're going to do that here in just a moment. So here we are. These are our 5 best practices. And these were developed by myself and Scott Kincaid here at Usability Sciences. And I'll go through each one of these in depth, but targeted, fast, unified, directed, and oxygen. So sites that do these things from device to device are meeting the best practices, and we're going to cover each one. So targeted. This really is taking a look at your site and ensuring that based on the type of device that may be in play for that user's context, the right features are available to those users. So as opposed to an everything everywhere approach where you would have all features on all versions of the site, this really prioritizes those things and gives users what they need based on where they are. Fast. Navigation that is clear, concise, and optimized. So regardless of the type of platform that your website is on, you've got very fast navigation. And what this means is that single word or very short phrases in terms of the headings, tap targets that have been optimized on mobile, strategic use of fonts and typography, and then really ensuring that you've got readable and visible labels. So in this example here, this is Affiniter.com, a pharmaceutical website, and as you can see, very strong color contrast, a very consolidated and concise navigation for the desktop experience. Now let's take a look at a different website on a tablet, and while there is a consolidated navigation for the primary navigation, once you click any one of these, it then shows you a secondary navigation that is very text intensive and uses a lot of images. And while the design might look nice and appealing, it gives the users that much more to wade through in terms of trying to figure out where they need to go to get the information they want. Now let's take a look at the mobile platform. So two examples here. Office Depot very effectively uses its navigation with strong color contrast, very concise, consolidated navigation options, whereas this competing office supply website gives you a very immersive and extensive navigation of which there are multiple options within the same line, so that's adding a lot of clutter to the experience, a clustered navigation group, if you will. And then each one of these also expands to another level. So you end up with a very long list of navigation options, slowing down that experience. Best practice number 3, unified. One brand, one voice, and different screens. So USAA does a great job here, and we've got an example from the mobile platform and the desktop platform. And as you can see, they use the same images and same terminology, same wording. And that really helps the experience hold up regardless of where you may begin your experience with the site and where you may end it on a different device. Now let's take a look at an example that doesn't necessarily meet this best practice. This is Prada.com, and we've got the mobile and the desktop experiences here. As you can see with the mobile, we've got different terminology and labels in the navigation as compared to the desktop experience. We have certain navigation items that are spelled out versus abbreviated. And then lastly, we've got even different fonts in play here. So if it weren't for the Prada logo, you may not recognize the site on a mobile and the site on the desktop as being the same actual website, representing the same brand. Best practice number 4, directed. A clear call to action at every step. So really taking to heart the idea here that every page, every web page, has 2 goals. 1, to inform users of something, and 2, to get them to initiate an action and take a step. So let's take a look at a great site that meets this best practice. This is Mint.com, and they do a lot of things right here. They give you a label here. This is free, so that is a call to action. Very strong color contrast there in the button, so letting you know where to begin your experience or interactions. If you really need some background information, they provided a how it works or what is Mint. They give you a visual reminder that you can do this on any platform, any device. And lastly, if you're debating whether or not you want to do this, they call out some of the benefits and address some of the blockers, if you will, in very short, concise, bulleted text here. So a very directed page. Best practice number 5, providing oxygen. So really this is all about white space and giving your pages room to breathe. And really it's all about challenging yourself to use 3 words, not 5, and really focusing on bulleted text versus paragraph text, which is more likely to be overlooked. So here on the tablet we've got Dropbox.com, and they've really embraced this principle and giving you a very to the point and plenty of room on this homepage. Here is a desktop site that does the same thing. As you can see, there's adequate white space, nothing's too cluttered or crowded here. There are brief phrases, and things that are secondary in nature, like the social links, are down here in the footer. Now we take a look at another desktop site that doesn't necessarily meet that best practice. We've got an unnecessary label here that's just eating up real estate, labeling the homepage. We've got a tag cloud that adds additional clutter and additional text to the page. And then we see the social links down here in a larger format, including labels, which again is just eating up more real estate. So those are 5 best practices for cross-platform sites. And now coming into the conclusion of our webinar, we'll just spend a few moments talking about where we see things going tomorrow. So in terms of tomorrow's research, we see greater customization in our studies for our clients. We see more hybrid type of studies, so really doing a lab-based study but also integrating focus groups or field studies or diary studies, things of that nature, to really round out the full picture and help users, help our clients rather, generate those ideas of tomorrow that are going to offer users more convenience. So again, thinking back to the 2 different approaches that you might take in doing this type of study, really focusing more on the generative research. One article that we just want to mention here, the future of technology isn't mobile, it's contextual. And in this article, they state that the always present computers will augment our ability to perceive and act in the moment based on where we are and who we're with and our past experiences. And really to demonstrate that, it's the idea that you yourself aren't necessarily the trigger for taking an action with your phone, but something in your environment is in fact triggering you to respond to something going on your phone. So let's take a look at a fictitious example here. And in this example, this would be perhaps what things could look like tomorrow. So we've got a user that has a smart refrigerator, a smart pantry. So both of these would be products that are aware of what you have actually in them. Then we've got food in a grocery store that's perhaps has labels or RFID chips, something like that that would help track what you're purchasing. And then perhaps you've got an account on allrecipes.com or a site like this. So walking into the store could generate an experience maybe that looks like this. Walking into the store, because you've got geo-tagging on your phone and the store is aware of where you are and that you're actually in the store, a trigger is then sent to recipes.com, who then takes a look at some of your favorite things that you like to cook, who then sends a trigger over to your smart refrigerator and takes a look at what's in your refrigerator and what you currently have, who then sends another trigger over to your smart pantry to validate the other items in your home that might allow you to make the recipe. All of which then gets sent to your phone with a prompt that really provides you almost, if you will, a suggestion on what you'd like to make. So maybe your phone knows that you like to make lasagna, knows that you like to make your own sauce, and they've tracked that you've used that recipe in the past month or so. So now they're letting you know all you need to do is pick up some noodles and some meat. You've already got the cheese at home, and you can actually make lasagna tonight. And by the way, here's a coupon for the store that you are in. So this could be very well where we're heading. And there's some very clear indications that is where, in fact, we are heading. Let's just take a look, and this will be our last example in the webinar here. Let's take a look at the Home Depot suite of websites and apps across platforms. And these are in play today, and they're definitely doing some very cool things here. So Home Depot has taken a look at their sites, and they've really embraced this idea that tablets are being used at home when you've got more time to explore and you're perhaps sitting on the couch in a very leisurely manner. The website on a desktop is really all about a full-service website that allows you to do shopping, comparisons, and complete those purchases. And then, in a very efficient manner, you've got the experience on the phone that has been pared down to just the essentials. So let's just take a quick look at some of these platforms and what makes them really cool. Here's the tablet app. And the tablet is almost more of an online catalog, so you can peruse pages of products, and because you're likely at home, there are things that are going to address your needs at home, perhaps installation instructions, or in this next example, actually seeing what a product might look like in your home. So we did this here in the break room, and I had my colleagues pose for the picture here. But we superimposed, through the use of this app, we were able to put this patio furniture virtually put it into our break room to really get an idea of what it would look like. Something that would be really handy to do when you're at home thinking about home improvements. Now let's end here with a very cool feature on the mobile phone experience. So here I am walking into Home Depot, and this is a real story here. I was shopping for a wedding gift, and I was shopping for a grill. And typically what I do when I walk into Home Depot, I spend the first 3 or 4 minutes wandering aimlessly down aisles looking for the products that I'm interested in. I usually don't like to ask for directions or where things are located. And this time I tried to do it a little differently, and I pulled my phone out. And because I was in the store, my phone recognized that, and they prompted me with an option to continue with an in-store experience. So of course I said yes. I wanted to see what that was all about. And the first thing that came up here were 2 main features, and they guided me through these features. The first was an in-store layout. So that was extremely handy. I took a look there and was able to locate the grills and went right to them, saving some time. And then I saw this other feature which said scan products to cart or list. And I wasn't sure why I might do that, so of course I gave it a shot, and I walked up to the grills, and I scanned it with my camera itself. I was able to scan the actual code in there, and then lo and behold, it actually provided me with the user reviews. And that's exactly what I'm looking for when I'm making this type of purchase. I usually do my research, and I want to make sure I'm buying something that is getting very strong reviews and isn't going to break down over time. So again, this experience of using the phone in the store really met my needs at that time, and the context of where I was in the store. So to finalize here, in conclusion, UX 3.0, it's about multi-screen convenience. This idea that your websites across devices all exist in a multi-screen ecosystem, all of which really address your needs based on where you are in various activities throughout your day. And it's not just the platforms we've talked about, but more screens are coming. The emergence of smartwatches, Google Glass, dashboards in cars that are becoming more intelligent. All of these screens are now bringing with them the opportunities for greater multi-screen convenience that really address users' needs. So I leave you with a question on what are you doing to innovate for the future and design or ensure that websites and products really are addressing those end user needs and providing them with an even more convenient experience. So that wraps it up, and this is all my contact information. I very much appreciate your time this afternoon on this holiday week. If you'd like to get in touch with me, here is my email address, my LinkedIn profile, the Twitter handle for my company, as well as my own personal account. And at this time, in the remaining 8 or 10 minutes, I'm going to open it up to questions. So if you've got a question and you would like to type something into your GoToMeeting little window there over in the right, I'll take a moment and answer any questions that come up. So not too many questions coming up. If anyone has anything that they'd like to email me on, looks like we have one question here. Let me read this question aloud. So we've got a question here, someone asking if I can review what's needed for the lab setup. So I'll share with you what we're doing. So we've got, at Usability Science, we use Moray, which is a software product that allows you to capture everything that takes place on the desktop screen, as well as a picture-in-picture of what the user, perhaps a camera on their face, so you can read their expressions. And in Moray and other products like Moray, you also have the option to set up an additional camera that would then allow you to capture the surface of either a tablet or a mobile phone. And we've got something that we've customized for our own needs that allows us to seamlessly transition between what's going on the desktop to what's going on with the camera feed of the mobile or the tablet, so that we can toggle back and forth. Another question here is if we've ever done remote multi-screen usability testing. So what I think this question is getting at is in doing remote testing, we've got users in different locations. And thinking back to our some recent studies, they've primarily been in the lab because we've got more devices and more cameras in play. It could be done in a remote fashion, and you would have a couple options there. Either sending equipment to the user, which would take a lot more time in working with them to set it all up correctly. Or you could perhaps use a market research facility someplace else where users could then come to one place where everything would be set up for them. So we've done plenty of that for our traditional studies, but for the cross-platform, haven't really done too much in the remote area. Another question here, there was one screen. Let me read through this. So that's part of the same question. So another question here, are online studies possible for cross-platform testing? And without really going too in-depth here, it's crossing into another area of research, which would be either, and by online studies I presume this person means things like surveys and unmoderated testing. And yes, there are various tools. At Usability Sciences, we do have some services that are really online oriented and that offer things like questionnaires or surveys during an experience. But going from device to device, from platform to platform, that's something we haven't done, and it's a very good question, and something that certainly will be coming up and being looked at the further we get into doing research in this manner. This is all pretty new territory for us, but very good question. A few more questions here. So someone is asking if there are any recommendations for testing with wireframes and not actually having a live site. And this certainly could be done. Testing content that's very early in the design phase in wireframe format, clickable HTML format, something we do very often at Usability Sciences. And to do it in a cross-platform environment, you could certainly do that. You would just need to ensure that you've gotten all the content, loaded it up onto the devices themselves before the sessions, and account for any variances in what that experience might be like for the users. And you may need to do a little bit more hand-holding with users, explaining that some of the things are very rudimentary and they won't be able to go click just about anywhere, but there should be enough there to give them an idea of what that experience is like. So you could certainly do this with a wireframe or a work in progress. Another question here, someone's asking if the slides will be made available. So at this time, we are going to be taking the recording from today, and later this afternoon we'll host this recording which you'll then be able to either stream on YouTube or actually download for reference. And for anyone that's registered, we'll send out a link to that once we have it hosted and made available. A few more questions. So one question here asking about AdSense for revenue and how that comes into play here. And you know, doing research in this format, really more about the actual experience, really more in the usability domain than it is about advertising. You can certainly design a study that has users take a look at ads, but probably not in the same domain as doing a cross-platform study. For the person that asked that question, if they want to email me a follow-up question, I can take another look at what was meant there. Just in the interest of time here, let's see if there's a final question. So there's a question about incentives. And just at a very general, high level here, typically when we do this type of research, $100 for incentives is what seems to do the trick in bringing users in and having them spend an hour and a half, even up to 2 hours of time. But really, again, it comes down to the type of users and their background and how busy they may be. So doctors and professionals of that level might require more of an incentive to get them to take time out to come do a study. So it is now 3 p.m. and we are out of time. And again, I want to thank everybody for your time and attention this afternoon. If there are any additional questions, feel free to email us and I'll reply to those. And again, thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.